Revolution, Thursdays at 4 p.m. and Saturdays at 10 p.m. Only at Revolution Radio.
Become a master survivor and get the news you can use from Dr. Johnny every Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.org on Studio B, and get the Master Survivor Show Beyond PhD. Because of his military Mar-a-Lago contacts, Dr. Johnny will bring you in-depth intel that you will not hear anywhere else, whether it's from the political arena, outer space, or natural health breakthroughs. Dr. Johnny delivers the goods every week, bringing you hope, health, and happiness, but most important of all, the truth about our world, and providing the tools to help you survive and thrive. So what are you waiting for? Tune in to The Master Survivor Beyond PhD every Sunday at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Studio B, on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.org.
Do you want to really get to the roots of good health and stay strong for the storms ahead? Then listen to Bridget's Well, Healing with the Elements of Life. Tuesdays, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio A, where stories are shared about traditional foods, Chinese medicine, and simple, healthy living skills. Listen to Bridget's Well, Tuesdays, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Studio A, right here on Revolution Radio.
Are you interested in the paranormal, murder mystery, real natural law? Do you enjoy interviews with amazing guests? Then join Crypt Rick every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Revolution Radio. Studio A, freedomslips.com. Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking. Welcome to the Crypt.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Spice extends life. The spice expands consciousness. The spice is vital to space travel.
Greetings, Earth Explorers, and welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is where the past meets the future, and in here the results are always positive. Now, we might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You'll be safely traveling with us as we endeavor to treat, cure, and prevent the disease of ignorance. This is the voice of the revolution. And we are streaming to you live with our good friends at Revolution Radio. We're also streaming to you live on several video platforms on Rumble and YouTube and Twitch and DLive, X, Truth Refugee, and Foxhole. So everywhere that good free podcasting can be found without a firewall, without a cost of any kind, and without any reservation, nothing classified here. Chat room is already filling up. Too many people to mention. I would be afraid I'd miss somebody. Wow. Thank you guys so much. They're from all over the place. I'm not going to scroll that far. That's crazy. That's really good. I appreciate that very much. I'll try to keep up with your comments. I know you all are friends now. Yeah, I do too. I do too. Uh, Zuno or Zuni 7420 says he wish I could get on Dark Journalist as a guest. I would love to. Anybody have any way to get a hold of the guy? I have no idea. I've written him 30, 40 times maybe, and he doesn't recognize me. So, yeah, I just, I don't know. He has his favorites. So, aloha to everybody out there, too. Let's see. Who do we have in Foxhole? Pool Dude, Rasta, and Keep True are already there. So I can smell the smoke from here. You guys are lighting it up, and I really, really appreciate you guys. That's right. We're family now. This is the X Squared Radio family on America Free Radio. Well, we have a lot of stories to cover tonight, and they're all important. So I want you to pay close attention. The first one I want to start with is happened today. Um, I try to stay as current as I can, and then I'll try to give you a future look to what's going to happen in the next week because this is Sunday night. This is the beginning of the news week. Everybody else is going to start tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. No, we start at 8 o'clock Sunday night. That begins the news week. So today, Trump issued a warning to Cuba. Mm-hmm. And the warning is we need you guys to come on over and strike a deal with us. Now, that sounds like Trump, doesn't it? It just sounds like something that he would say. But let me tell you that there's a right time for everything, right? To everything, there is a season. He said Cuba lived for many years on large amounts of oil and money from Venezuela. And that economic lifeblood disappeared after U.S. forces moved in to arrest and extract Venezuelan strongman Nicolas Maduro last week. Not a president, not a legitimate leader. There were multiple warrants for his arrest going all the way back to the early Biden administration, all the way to Obama. Biden put a bounty on his head. Nobody wanted to take it. And so finally, Trump took care of it. He said Cuba provided security services to the last two Venezuelan dictators, but not anymore. Not anymore. Most of those Cubans, they did from last week's U.S. aid attack, and Venezuela doesn't need protection anymore from the thugs and extortionists who held them hostage for so many years. Free. Venezuela now has the United States of America, the most powerful military in the world by far, to protect them. And to protect them, we will. There will be no more oil or money going to Cuba. Zero. I strongly suggest they make a deal before it's too late. They don't really have winter time in Cuba, but they have a lot of people to take care of, and not much industry to claim. So they have to do something. From January through November of last year, Venezuela shipped an average of about 27,000 barrels of oil per day to Cuba, covering roughly half of Cuba's total oil shortfall, according to documents from Venezuela's state-run oil company, PDVSA. Further, Cuba is undergoing one of the most dramatic population collapses in the world. according to independent demographic researchers, with estimates suggesting the island's population has already fallen below 8 million. And this is for a couple of reasons. One is a lot of people have left Cuba. They just get on whatever will float, cross the 90 miles to Florida, and start living their lives. So everybody that can has done that. The remaining ones in Cuba are so impoverished that they don't procreate. One thing happens to the human body when it gets to a certain state of malnourishment is it stops being fertile. Crumbling infrastructure, chronic food and fuel shortages, collapsing public services, and political repression have combined into a deepening polycrisis. That's a new word, polycrisis. It means that uh, multiple levels of critical infrastructure are beginning to collapse. And it's sort of like, I don't know if you ever watched the movie The Replacements. You remember that with Kuno Reeves and Gene Hackman? And it was a good movie. It was about a scab football team crossing the Union lines in order for uh, a football team to continue having games and living up to their TV contracts. So Kuno Reeves plays the quarterback, Falco, and it, uh, it they're having a meeting and they're talking about things that they're really afraid of. And one guy says spiders and different things, and finally Falco says quicksand. And the other players go, yeah, well, quicksand's pretty bad stuff. Yeah, well, that's pretty scary too. And Gene Hackman, who plays the coach, said, what do you mean by quicksand? He said, well, it's when you begin sinking, and no matter how you struggle, no matter how you fight, how you maneuver, you just keep going in deeper. That's what happens in a football game that goes south. Well, that's a polycrisis. That's what's going on in Cuba. They have reached the quicksand point. Everything is beginning to sink, and everything stands on everything else, and nothing can support the society. And it is fueling widespread disillusionment, especially among younger Cubans who see little future on the island. It used to have a great future back in the 50s. Cuba was rocking, baby. There were casinos, there were nightclubs, the restaurants were to die for. But all those great chefs and all those great musicians and all those great minds left the island and came to Florida, and that's what makes Southern Florida, the Keys and Fort Lauderdale, that's what makes that place rock. Little Havana is amazing, amazing. It's clean, it's vibrant, the people are awesome, and that's because they came from Cuba, and they would like to go back, but they're not going to go back as long as the current regime is controlling that island. So, researchers studying Cuban demographics say the population is nowhere near the government's own 2015 projection of more than 11 million people by 2024. Instead, migration surged dramatically after 2021, with an estimated 18% population drop between 2022 and 2023 alone. So while Biden was trying to stuff this country full of ignorant, inbred voters, Cubans were leaving the island for freedom and for a way to be with their families in the South. Cuba's official statistics office reported 9.75 million residents at the end of 2024, down 300,000 from the previous year, acknowledging what officials call a profound demographic shift, even as they stop short of labeling it a crisis. Now, a couple things are also happening in Cuba. See, Cuba is 90 miles off our coast, which makes it a strategic location for people wanting to attack the United States. But we watch that shit really closely. And China and Russia have not been able to capitalize on Cuba's weakness. They've not been able to fill in the gap. Chinese people have not been able to go to Cuba and set up a society to replace the Cubans that are leaving the island. And so Cuba is in kind of a fix. So they send soldiers to Venezuela to guard Maduro, and Venezuela in exchange sends oil to Cuba. That's the deal that they made. It's a bad deal. It's a bad deal for Cuba for sure. And the Venezuelan oil is not like oil you find in, say, Saudi Arabia, or oil like you find in Texas. Venezuelan oil is very heavy, black, thick crude, and it took quite some time for American technology to get to the point where it could refine Venezuelan crude. But refine it, it can. Finest refineries in the world. During Trump's first term, he was able to build and expand refineries so that they would be able to take care of the Venezuelan crude because he wanted all sources coming into the United States to be able to lower our energy costs, which he did. Biden reversed all of that. So that's why prices went up, and you were not able to buy a house or eggs or buy a new car or any of that stuff because of that. But now it's been a year, and Trump has reversed a lot of that. There's a lot of drilling going on in the federal lands and places where Biden reversed the licenses to allow drillers to produce the oil. But they also began heavy sanctions against Venezuela, which means you can't send your oil here to be refined and then sell the refined products around the world. We're not going to be a revenue stream for you. So that kind of pressure on Venezuela put Maduro in a rough spot. The idea was to try to force him out of office. And then Trump tried to persuade him to leave office, gave him several very lucrative chances to walk away. But the man's ego would not let that happen. That's what happens to communist dictators is their ego gets to the point where they go, I'm sorry, this is all mine, and I'm going to keep it all. And so President Trump decided to serve the warrant. And I have another story on that to tell you how that was done. But the important point is that now Cuba has been put into a position where if they want to survive, if the current government wants to stay in power, they are going to have to make a deal with the United States. In other words, we're going to supply the oil. And in exchange for that supply, there are going to be conditions, rules and conditions that are going to be good for your people. And we'll see how it plays out. We'll just see how it plays out. One thing we don't have to worry about, we don't have to worry about Cuba turning around and attacking the United States over this. It's not going to happen. The people would never support it. All right. In the meantime, up in the cold country, Democrats have uh, managed to send somebody into the field to attack ICE officers, and she got herself killed. She committed suicide by cop. And even though she wasn't black, she was lesbian. That's part of it. And she was female. That's also part of it. And it was just enough cell phone camera angles to support a narrative that the ICE agent fired unprovoked. Of course, he didn't, because there are also enough angles that show that he was just trying self-defense, and the guy had already been dragged 300 feet by another car that hit him. He just got over that, 36 stitches in the leg, and that was not a happy trip. And he wasn't going to let that happen again. But Democrats have finally shown their true colors, and they are circling the wagons. Nearly 200 members of the Party for Socialism and Liberation gathered in downtown San Antonio to protest the recent U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement shooting in Minneapolis. The group and attendees created a makeshift memorial for Renee Good, the woman who was shot while driving her vehicle toward an ICE agent enforcing immigration laws on Wednesday. And of course, I have a lot of feelings about this. Not the fact that she was shot, that's tragic, but the fact that these people are willing to come out and protest on her behalf. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me. This was not a happy family. This was a woman whose children were taken away from her because her lover, her female lover, uh, enjoyed putting cigarettes out in the skin of her children. And so the state moved in and took the kids away from them because of the burns. And yet the people are going out in the streets and protesting on their behalf. San Antonio Party for Socialism and Liberation has shifted the focus of its activities. They used to be the big pro-Hamas people, right? They had all the pro-Hamas flags, and they wore the Arafat bath towels. You know how these people wear the Arafat bath towels. They had all that going on, but that wasn't really paying off for them. So now they've switched to Goodites. They're all Goodites now. And they love Tren de Aragua. They love these gang members. They love the drugs. They love the child trafficking. They love the slavery. And they want to march to support it. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has been captured. That's putting a huge crimp in their style. The money is being cut off. The flow of kids is being cut off. And so they're out there protesting because they want it back. The protest is one of hundreds across the United States yesterday, organized by the Party for Socialism and Liberation in response to the shooting. So they say. I mean, they were looking for anything, actually, anything will do. The riots are not nearly as big, not nearly, maybe a fraction, a tiny fraction of what they would be if the woman was black. If the woman was black, there'd be millions of people in the streets. I'm just saying, you're not going to get blacks to come out with you. You don't believe me? Go look at all the video you want. Go look at all the video you want. Every single march around the country, thousands of marches around the country. You see any black people, you call me back. There are no black people. No black people are going to come out there and protest in the streets for these two cigarette burning, dope smoking lesbians who like to run over cops. They're not going to do it. They know the difference. The party's marching for the abuse of children, especially by burning them with cigarettes. They are also marching to support uncontrolled immigration, no matter what. They've spent all weekend in the freezing ass cold to show their solidarity with Renee Good. That's why I call them Goodites, who committed suicide by attempting to kill an ICE agent with her car. Not a very bright move. Even though she saw the officer draw his gun and point it right at her, she nailed that gas pedal anyway. Rather than try to de escalate the situation or provide support for federal law enforcement, the Democrats in Minnesota moved swiftly to hamstring ICE operations even further. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, or Fry, I don't know what you want to call it. To me, he's gay. The presence of federal immigration enforcement agents is causing chaos in our city. Yes, it is, asshole. It is. Because your city is full of illegal immigrants, and ICE is there to deport them. Is that chaotic? You damn betcha it's chaotic. He said, we're demanding ICE to leave the city immediately. Well, ICE demands that the illegals leave the city immediately. 80 million Americans demand the illegals leave the city immediately. The DHS, the DOJ, the Department of the Treasury, everybody wants the illegals to leave the USA. So I think you're a little outnumbered, Mr. Fry. At a news conference, Tampon Tim threatened to mobilize the Minnesota National Guard to protect Minnesotans from the rogue ICE agents. And by the way, that's a blatant act of insurrection. That is what starts civil wars. When governors call out men in uniform to fight federal men in uniform, that's a civil war. That's exactly what that is. The statement was so ridiculous. It was so over the top that Tim Walz has been asked not to run for governor again in Minnesota. And I don't think he's going to finish out his term, to tell you the honest truth. I think that he's going to be gone. He also promised that the state will ensure there's a full, fair, and expeditious investigation to ensure accountability and justice. In other words, we're going to make sure that ICE agent pays for the murder of Ms. Good. But they don't want to do anything about Bird. Oh no, Bird shooting Ashley Babbitt in cold blood right there on camera. They don't want to do a damn thing about that. But they want this guy gone, and it's not going to happen. He's going to get promoted. He said, but in truth, rogue ICE agents can't be to the chaos unfolding in Minnesota. That chaos has been carefully planned and cultivated for years now. The Democrats created the conditions that led to the widespread scamming of the public welfare system. You think it was the Somalis that figured that out? Really? A whole population with average IQ of 60, a bunch of inbred ingrates that should be shipped all back to Somalia? Am I being racist? Maybe the fuck I am. You think they figured it out on their own? You think they figured out how to scam all these federal agencies out of billions of dollars? No. It was done by Democrats. And the Somalis were hapless victims used in the process so they could buy a new car now and then. It's horrible what they've done to the Somalis. Over the last few decades, the Democrats created a patronage system that's designed to gradually dismantle the country. They initiated the mass importation of third worlders, most of them illiterate. They created programs to support them that provided lucrative jobs and contracts to their allies, fostered an environment in which those programs are ripe for abuse by the people they are supposed to help, ran cover for the inevitable wave of fraud, and then tried to redirect public anger once the fraud was discovered, right back at those who noticed, and attempted to stop it by calling them racist. Go ahead, call me racist. I don't give a shit. In exchange, Democrats got votes and the mandate to create even more programs and NGOs for exploitation. Eventually, we found out about it. Eventually, we grew a pair and started doing something about it. USAID was dismantled. The NGOs are being dismantled. Act Blue is being dismantled. Planned Parenthood is being dismantled. The SNAP fraud, the EBT cards, all that is being dismantled. Democrats' rhetoric radicalized and organized radicals like Ms. Good, who was killed on Wednesday, by the way, this week. In their continued efforts to demonize ICE agents in the wake of the shooting, Democrats are setting agents, as well as protesters they claim to care about, up for further conflict that could easily turn a whole lot more violent. Because if bullets start coming back the other way, that's exactly what they want. They want the public to take up arms against ICE. They're begging for it. They're begging for it. Ilhan Illegal Omar was up today saying that very same thing. Basically, go get your guns, come out and kill these damn ICE agents. That's what she was saying. Leftist-backed NGOs and Antifa terror cells organize themselves on a national scale to assault any attempt by Republicans to curtail lawlessness, while Democrat politicians are clapping all the way, ringing the bells, ringing the bells. Democrats regularly condemn law enforcement as a concept, but then, in almost the same instant, they practically fall on their knees to call for the swift hand of justice to deliver great vengeance and furious anger upon their enemies. I mean, just look at the unprecedented witch hunt that took place after the January 6th love fest and gathering at the U.S. Capitol. I mean, what do you think is going to happen when you start shooting rubber bullets into people's faces and launching flashbangs into people singing the national anthem. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen when 500,000 people are jabbed and gassed and shot? I'm telling you, don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't listen to the Democrats who want you to come out to kill ICE agents. Don't do it. You're going to lose. They want you to die for their cause so they can protect their money machine. How much is enough, you say? Enough to keep you from having any? Maybe. I mean, congressmen add $10 million a year to their net worth. Do you? Hell no, you don't. Stay focused on staying alive. And I'm talking to you, Democrats, too. Stay focused on staying alive. Democrats defend no one except perhaps themselves as fervently as they do the people whose crimes they've helped facilitate. The Somali scammers that you're seeing, they're all going to be gathered up. They're all going to be tied together. They're all going to be put on planes and they're all going to be shipped back to their glorious Somalia, where they have sent all of our money. It's just sitting there waiting on them. The Somali scammers aren't alien parasites defrauding the country that took them in. They are victims of racism by the Democrats. They are taking advantage of them. The leftist terrorists destroying property and violently attacking ICE agents, they're not anarchic barbarians. They're freedom fighters, right? Resisting a fascist regime. See how all this gets twisted up in their sewer? Radical leftist foot soldiers, the state and federal bureaucracy, the professional NGO activists, and Democrat politicians all work in concert to leech taxpayer dollars toward their clients and their donors and their causes. They work tirelessly to slowly but surely weaken America in the name of power and in the name of greed. The anarchy that they unleash on American cities during this process is a feature. It's not a bug. It's not a glitch. It's the main point of focus for them. Okay? So don't fall for it, please. If you think you're so inspired, you're going to go out in the streets and you're going to protest against ICE, think what you are doing. You're going out there to risk your life to protect a woman who burned cigarettes into her own children's arms. She sat there while her lover did it. She probably held their arms while she did it. Her children were taken away from her finally, but they've been brutalized by these two lesbians. She drove around for 5 hours that day, doing nothing but harassing ICE agents. She came from 350 miles away from the north, and she had Missouri plates. This woman is a professional agitator, and she met her maker by trying to run over an ICE agent. And it was the wrong ICE agent. Maybe the first time you can run over them and bump them out of the way, and they'll get up with a couple bruises and shake it off. But once a guy's been run over one time, he gets a little gun shy of that, and he's going to draw his weapon on you. And then if you don't obey that lawful order to get the hell out of the car and you mash that gas full throttle and try to run a guy over, you're going to die. Now you know the formula. You've seen it in action. Don't do it, people. You white idiots that are going out there doing this shit, don't. You know what happens when you get arrested? By the way, oh, you think, I'm a freedom fighter. I'm going to go get arrested for the cause. When you get arraigned, by the way, it's a federal crime to obstruct justice. When you get arraigned, it's a $5,000 fine. How many of you have 5 grand in your back pocket when you go out? Think you're going to do this glorious, march for pedophilia. I support pedophilia. I support open borders. I support men who rape, murder, stab, and brutalize women. I support that. I'm going out to support that. You remember what Jesus said? I do. I'll finish it for you. Jesus said, if you harm one of these little ones, it will be better for you to hang a millstone around your neck and be tossed into the sea than what I'm going to do to you. That's what you're marching for. You're marching to support that. Use your brain, you Christian idiots. Don't go out there and do this. All right. Let's move this on. Yeah, that's right, famine. History with their kids was sketchy as F. Absolutely. Well, I heard of a Christian today. Told a friend of mine that he's going to go march. And I'm saying you should tell your friend what he's marching for. He's saying, well, I'm going to go march against ICE. Great, wonderful. Look what you're marching for. Look what you're supporting. Look how they have convinced you to come into their clan and participate with your body and your voice and your loudspeaker and your freaking whistle. Look what you're marching for. And I'll tell you this, folks, you do it. There's going to come a day, there will come a day when Jesus will say, I never knew you. I never knew you. You drew close to me with your lips, but your hearts were far from me. I never knew you. Get thee out of my sight. Think about it before you go march. All right. No, I don't. I don't really blame her 100% because she fell for it. She swallowed the rhetoric and she took the money. You think she paid for her own gas to drive 350 miles down there that day and drive around? No, 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 no. They're being paid to do this. There's a lot of money behind this that comes from Act Blue, which, by the way, is a money laundering operation, which is highly illegal because it's taking donors' money and siphoning it into the Democrat Party through a company called Act Blue by stealing people's identity. So if somebody gave $3 to the Democrat Party 5 years ago, they have their name, they have their address, and that what they do is they just keep donating the money in that woman's name. She doesn't know. She doesn't know. And as far as the election commission is concerned, it's this little old lady, in West Atlanta, or this little old lady in St. Louis who is sending in 1,700 donations of $3 each. That's a lot, isn't it? $51,000. Oh my gosh. And you go and ask her, did you donate $51,000 to the Democrat Party? And she says, is this a trick question? Because I've never seen $51,000 in my life. And I wouldn't give it to the Democrat Party if my life depended on it. No, well, we have records here that say that you donated 1,700 times, $30 each. Oh my God. That's where the money's coming from to feed the Goodites that are out there using their vehicles to block in ICE agents. And by the way, they're being briefed, and we've briefed you. The media, our media has briefed you already. If you box in ICE agents, they're going to assume they're about to be ambushed and they're going to take action against it. If you get shot, you're only bringing it on yourself. You want to take your vehicle out there and go commit suicide? Have at it. I don't recommend it. And by the way, if you do get arrested, not only is it that $5,000 fine, but now, even if you don't serve time, which you probably will, you'll probably serve 30 days, you're now a felon. Yeah, you've committed a felony. You've committed a felony, obstruction of justice. You're now a felon. Go try to get a job. Go try to get a job someplace. See how easy it is for you to process your retirement or your Social Security. You're a felon now. Think it the hell through, people. All right, let's talk about what's going on in Iran. You think we have it bad in this country. Oh my God. What's going on right now in this very hour in Iran? It will absolutely blow your mind. Worldwide network monitors are saying that Iran was plunged into a nationwide internet blackout 3 days ago. You know what that's like? Probably not. We've never had an internet blackout in this country. I mean, I've had my YouTube channel destroyed and my Twitter channel shut down, but I still had access to the internet. I could watch the news, I could send texts, I could reach out on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. But Thursday, the government of Iran tried to shut off all the internet nationwide. Now, why do you think they did that? Because they were afraid that young people were sending text messages like during the Arab Spring and got everything wound up? No, nope, nope, nope. That's not it at all. This is so dark. It's so dark. It's just frightening to me. Um, the Iranian government is trying to shut off all the internet, and they've not been able to do it to all the Starlink because Elon Musk is very smart and is able to keep the Starlink operating and keep them from hacking into it and shutting it down. But they go door to door and they break in the door and they look for the satellite dish. Some people have the satellite dish set up in their attic, an attic window or something. You can't see it from the street. So they break in and search for the dish. And if you have the dish, they destroy the dish and you go to jail. You know why? Because A, they don't want you watching outside news. They don't want you watching how the world is in support of Persian women who are rising up in Iran right now, trying to free themselves from the black bag that all the gay men in the Muslim Brotherhood have put them inside of because they're afraid of women. Yeah, the Muslim Brotherhood is gay as fuck because they're afraid of women. They don't want to see them. Bag them up. Bag them up. We don't want to be attracted. We like boys. Swear to God, that is the truth. But they also don't want you sending any messages out. They don't want us seeing what they are doing to their people. And if they succeed, so help me God, if they succeed in shutting down the internet, they will slaughter these people. They don't want the world to see what they are frothing at the mouth to do to these women. It's horrific. It's horrific. Talk about a rape fest. According to the NetBlocks traffic monitoring group, internet traffic in Iran fell to nearly zero on Thursday night. You think these people weren't afraid? They were scared to death. The IRGC was throwing hand grenades into the crowd. Hand grenades into the crowd, not flashbangs, not tear gas, frag explosions that blow off legs and blow people in two. They were throwing hand grenades into the crowd, but the millions kept on coming. They would rather be blown in two than be sacked up in the damn burqa again. The nationwide blackout was presaged by dramatic losses of connectivity in the capital of Tehran and other cities, a detail confirmed by Ali Safavi of the National Council of Resistance of Iran. Around 1 p.m. local time, the internet traffic dropped, Safavi told the reporters. The internet was cut off in Lordagan, Kahan, Mahal, and Bakhtiari provinces as battles erupted. The NCRI said at least 7 people were killed in those cities on Wednesday by direct fire from the Criminal Revolutionary Guards and the suppressive forces loyal to the regime's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. This brings the number of confirmed martyrs killed on the path to freedom to 44. The millions of Iranians from north to south and east to west have been out in the streets until nighttime over the past 12 days. By the way, a lot of these same people went out during Obama's presidency. They went out during Biden's presidency. Some of them were even out during Clinton's presidency. And they were betrayed every single time by the Democrats. Nobody went in to help them. Nobody provided them internet conductivity. Nobody protected them. Trump is protecting them. I'm going to get to that. He's protecting them, and so is Elon Musk. Elon Musk is keeping the Starlink network up and preventing the Iranians from shutting it down. CBS News, Associated Press quoted sources in Tehran who confirmed internet access was shut off on Thursday. The AP added that the international telephone networks also appear to have been cut off on Thursday, including both landlines and mobile phone services. Such outages have in the past been followed by intense governmental crackdowns. They come in with machine guns and mustard gas, and they just wipe them out. They pick up as many women as they can, and these women are murdered in such gruesome fashion that one of the family members of a woman that was murdered only recognized her by her birthmark. She was so brutalized by the IRGC, they only recognized her by her birthmark. I'm just telling you, they're trying to terrorize these people, and they do. The trigger for the intensified crackdown and communications blackout appeared to have been a call for mass demonstrations by Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. Now, he is the son of the late Shah. Not terrifically excited about the prince and what he stands for. I never really liked the Shah. I didn't like the Shah in 1928. I didn't like the Shah prior to when the mullahs took control. Maybe we liked them because, we were buying oil cheap. But these are bad men, and they treat people poorly. Some of the protest chants include praise for the Shah and calls for the monarchy to return. It's all they know. Millions of Iranians demanded their freedom tonight. In response, the regime in Iran has cut all lines of communication. It has shut down the internet. It has cut landlines. It may attempt to jam the satellite signals. It's not going to succeed. Trump or Elon Musk will not allow that to happen. He said, I want to thank the leader of the free world, President Trump, for reiterating his promise to hold the regime to account. It is time for others, including European leaders, to follow his lead, break their silence, and act more decisively in support of the people of Iran. Now, 2 days ago, Pahlavi made an urgent and immediate call to President Trump for him to protect the demonstrators. That's going to be difficult to do. Last night, you saw the millions of brave Iranians in the streets facing down live ammo. Today, they are facing not just bullets, but a total communications blackout, no internet, no landlines. Ali Khamenei, fearing the end of his criminal regime at the hands of the people, and with the help of your powerful promise to support the protesters, has threatened the people on the streets with a brutal crackdown. And he wants to use this blackout to murder these young heroes, as I was saying earlier. So Trump issued some warnings, basically, don't touch these people. But the Ayatollah dismissed Trump's warnings Friday, claiming the president's hands are stained with the blood of Iranians, and condemned the protesters for ruining their own streets. They're not really ruining the streets, they're just burning down all the federal buildings to please the president of the United States. Iranian state media Friday began ominously referring to the demonstrators as terrorists, while Judiciary Chief Gholam Hossein Mohseni Ejei warned their punishment would be death without any legal leniency. During an interview with radio host Hugh Hewitt on Thursday, President Trump repeated this warning to the Iranian regime. I quote, "I have let them know that if they start killing people, which they intend to do during their riots, we're going to hit them very hard," said Trump. Trump said some of the deaths in the protests so far might have been accidents, such as people getting crushed by stampedes, and he was not sure I can reasonably hold someone responsible for that. Trump repeated that he has told the Iranian regime very strongly that if they begin murdering protesters on a massive scale, they're going to have hell to pay. I'm with you, Boy Dogs do. I'm afraid of this. You know, Boy Dogs do says, I'm all for the Iranian people, but hate seeing us get involved. And this is a messy place to get involved. It's not like you can go in and take targeted strikes and stop this from happening. This is happening on the streets. This is happening next to the bodegas. This is happening, in the neighborhoods. Yeah, Original Old Dog says, bad men with dark alliances, and too often the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but forget to finish with, will always remain my enemy and will cost us in the end. That's exactly right. You don't want to make these deals with the Shah. It's not the Shah's. He may look like a guy in a suit with a good manicure now, but I'm just telling you, the monarchy has not served the Persians well. What they really should do, I don't know how to express this, but the world has government in a box now, okay? We have government in a box with a bow on it. All you have to do is undo the bow and pour water on it, and a government comes out. You put people into those positions, and the government functions. If you teach people correct principles and let them govern themselves, it will almost always turn out well. What you have to stop, of course, is the same thing that goes on in every government. You have to stop the politicians from making themselves rich at the expense of the people that they're governing. They actually think in their minds that because they have been elected, chosen to be put into this position of lawmaker, that they are a leader. And they're not. Far from it. They are servants. They are servants of the people, not leaders of the people. There are leaders of the people. Trump's a leader of the people. Podcasters are leaders of people. We're talking to you. We're informing you. We're inspiring you. We're using our charisma to get our point across and get you to open your minds and think right. But we don't tell you how to live. We want you to live your best life and be your best self. And we want you to go out and look for the good in other people and help it to grow a little bit every day. That's what we do. You do the rest. So let's talk about what happened in Venezuela. This is a kind of a remarkable story for those of you that haven't heard it yet. If you listen to the wrong news outlets, you're not going to hear this. But if you listen to America Free Radio, because it's Sunday night and we're beginning the news week, I found this most profound because it reminded me of the video game Halo. Have you ever played Halo before? You ever played? Well, they've made some movies now, some TV series off the game series, and it's very interesting. Um, White House spokeswoman Carolyn Levitt, you know who she is, right? Beautiful woman, very charismatic, kick ass uh, press secretary. She amplified claims about American Special Forces super soldiers deployed advanced weaponry during the extraction phase of former Venezuelan strongman Nicolas Maduro. Now, I have lots of friends in the super soldier program. My late friend, James Rink, he's a neighbor of mine, lives right over there. He lived right over there. He just died recently of heart failure. Now, here's the interesting thing about these super soldiers, and I know many of them, and they all suffer from the same ailments. This is very strange. I'm 70 years old, and I've had some, old person symptoms. I mean, I haven't had glaucoma or anything like that, but I've had heart failure. I've had the normal old people stuff, right? Old people have certain ailments. They get arthritis, they get glaucoma, they get type 2 diabetes, they have heart failure, but not young people. James Rink was a young man. He was, I think, 49 years old, but he died with an 80-year-old's heart. Yeah, he died with an 80-year-old's heart. What happened was his heart failed due to age. He didn't eat unhealthy. Okay. I knew James. James is an athlete of sorts. He was a super soldier. But this program, they had a way to teleport the soldiers to another place. They would fight for 20 years and then they return to their same body. Yeah, so they go out, they fight 20 years according to their contract, and then they come back and they're put back in the same body. But here's the deal: the body ages that 20 years. All the ones I know, okay, Andrew Basiago, James Rink, I could name others. All the ones I know, they're all suffering ailments of much older people. And now it's hard for people to believe, oh, yeah, yeah, sure, you served 20 years out and back. But look at their bodies. Look at the ailments that they have. It's actually 20 years out and back. Yeah. So these super soldiers are not that kind of super soldier. Uh, here's the interview that happened with the security guy that survived this. On the day of the operation, we didn't hear anything coming. We were on guard in a very secure facility with 300 soldiers guarding two people, Maduro and his wife, who were asleep in a secure part of the compound. Not easy to get to. We're not talking about Saddam Hussein. We're not talking about uh, uh, we're not talking about some. I can't remember his name now. He's been dead so long I can't remember his name. Help me out, chat room. The guy in Pakistan who was in the compound that we flew in and supposedly shot in the face. Then I think he was already dead. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a live top security compound with walls and soldiers and radar and all kinds of stuff. Modern stuff. Cuban troops guarding it. We were on guard But suddenly, all our radar systems shut down. Nothing was working. We didn't detect anything. We didn't see anything. I'm just scrolling down on my chat room because Osama bin Laden. Thank you very much. Got it. Thank you, Kay. Thank you. Wow. I do all this, and I thought, oh, what is the guy's name? Osama bin Laden. Got it. Wasn't like that. He said the next thing we saw were drones, lots of drones flying over our positions. We didn't know how to react. The security guard on Maduro's compound said this account was considered credible enough by Carolyn Levitt to repost. The question was asked, and the response came back: to comprehend the modern battlefield where drones, sonic weapons, were sure insane helmet-mounted optics with AI just made an unlevel playing field in which the guard said, yes, we tried to fight back, but it was a massacre. We were hundreds, but we had no chance. They were shooting with such precision and speed. It seemed like each soldier was firing 300 rounds per minute. We couldn't do anything. Now, that's not an M16. An M16 fires about 180 rounds a minute if it's in really good shape. That's 3 rounds a second, 180 rounds a minute. Usually, I can tell an M16 3 miles away. If somebody's shooting in full automatic, I know the sound. And it has a firing rate. It goes bup, 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 about that fast. All right. It's around 3 rounds a second is about as fast as it can go. 300 rounds a minute is 5 rounds a second. If you're firing 223, that means either you have multiple barrels, like a minigun, or you're not shooting 223. You're shooting another round, a smaller, shorter round, and it's probably suppressed. And I don't know if you've ever fired a full automatic weapon or not. It has a tendency to do what's called muzzle rise. The muzzle comes up on you. So Sten, who's a gun maker, began making guns. If you hold it and you shoot it in full automatic, it's 308, but it doesn't rise on you. It comes back on you, but if you're strong, you can hold it, but the muzzle doesn't rise. So you can pour 10 rounds into a dinner plate at 150 yards with one squeeze of the trigger. Just pull the trigger and let go, and 10 rounds go one right behind the other, right into a steel dinner plate size target 150 yards away. I've done it thousands of times, thousands of times. Well, these are special guns, special high-tech guns, special high-tech armor that these guys were wearing. Zero casualties. Nobody got a scratch on them, and there's 300 in front of you. And they're all shooting at you, but they're having no effect. Now, I would say all shooting at you, but wait till you hear this. After the drones appeared, some helicopters arrived, but there were very few. I think barely 8 helicopters. From those helicopters, soldiers came down, but it's a very small number, maybe 20 men. Now, you can fit 36 soldiers into a helicopter, but not all the soldiers were in one helicopter. It takes a while to pour 36 soldiers out of a helicopter. Minutes. They didn't have minutes, they had seconds. So I would say multiple helicopters deployed multiple troops in multiple locations. And that's how they overwhelmed them from a body count point. But those men, they were technologically very advanced. They didn't look like anything we fought against before. They probably had advanced armor on. I don't know if you're familiar with the game Halo, but that's what I'm thinking. They had advanced optics, they had full helmets, they had body armor on. Nothing could hurt these guys from a small arms weapon. And so then the interviewer said, and then the battle began? And the security guard said, yes, but it was a massacre. Uh, and he asked the question, so what about your own weapons? Didn't they help? And the guard said, no help at all. Because it wasn't just the weapons. At one point, they launched something. I don't even know how to describe it. It was a very intense sound wave. Suddenly, I felt like my head was exploding from the inside. We all started to bleed from the nose. Some were vomiting blood. We fell to the ground, unable to move. And your comrades, did they manage to resist? No, not at all. Those 20 men, without a single casualty, killed hundreds of us. We had no way to compete with their technology, with their weapons. I swear, I've never seen anything like it. We couldn't even stand up after that sonic weapon or whatever it was. And the interviewer said, so do you think the rest of the region should think twice before confronting the Americans? And the guard said, without a doubt. I'm sending a warning to anyone who thinks they can fight the United States. They have no idea what they're capable of. After what I saw, I never want to be on the other side of that again. They're not to be messed with. Now, if you go back a ways, sometime in the last century, in 1987, was it 87? No, I'm sorry, 1997. I made a documentary with Wendy Robbins called Angels Don't Play This Harp. And it was about HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. And Bernard Eastland had 7 patents that went along with this technology. And one of those patents was delivering a sonic wave on top of a radio carrier into the battlefield that would incapacitate soldiers. It could do lots of things. It could make you see visions. It could keep you from sleeping. It could liquefy your bowels. We further developed that weapon to be used in the Gulf War. It was mounted on a Humvee. It had a dish about 5 feet in diameter. It was rather large. And of course, all olive drab and everything. But the Marines and the Army were asked to clear areas of a town, which, as you know, is the most dangerous fighting. Oh, we blew right past our break, didn't we? I'm sorry. Well, we went through the commercials. I hope we didn't miss very much, but I got wrapped up in this, so I'll have my own commercials here in a minute. Uh, it is the most dangerous kind of fighting there is, and we usually have a lot of casualties when that happens. It doesn't mean we don't do it, but we do it and we pay a high price for it. Yeah, that's right. Bowels. Bowels, as in you poop your pants, Washaki Win. So they would set the weapon up on the area where they wanted to go in and clean this area out of all insurgents, and they would turn it on and run it for about 45 minutes. 45 minutes. And as soon as that was done, they'd shut it off. The troops would go in, and all the insurgents would be laying in their own excrement, unable to move. They were weak as cats. They couldn't stand up, they couldn't run, they couldn't fight, and they were scared to death. Absolutely white faced scared to death. And that's how we reduced the number of casualties when we went in. So these sonic weapons became very, very useful. Now, over the years, what's happened is the size of the sonic deployment system has gone down. And they may have a way. I don't know if you've ever gone to like a IMAX theater or a Dolby theater. You ever been to one? You see the Avatar, the new Avatar movie? You should go see it. It's really good. But if you look along the sides of the walls at a theater, you'll see a lot of little speakers. They're maybe 3 feet tall and they have like 8-inch speakers in them, but there's like 20 of them down each side. Well, when the explosions go off and the subsonic stuff goes off in the movie, you feel it. I mean, it's just, like that. So maybe what they have learned to do, because there were several helicopters, maybe they have learned how to deploy this weapon from multiple small resonators, focus it on a battle area, and have it be very intense. As I told you, we would turn these on, they would be turned on for 45 minutes, sometimes days it would take to weaken people. They didn't have that much time. They didn't have 45 minutes. This was done in seconds. In less than a minute, everybody was down. And anybody that tried to pick up a weapon took a dirt nap. They went in, they got Maduro and his wife, and they got out. That's how superior this technology is. So, what happened in Venezuela is going to change everything for a while. Because, as I said, this technology has been around since the mid 90s. We're not the only ones with it, but we're the only ones that have ever used it in battle like this. And I don't think the Cubans have it. I think the Cubans were very surprised by it. But it doesn't mean that the Russians don't have it. It doesn't mean the Chinese or the North Koreans or the Taiwanese. It doesn't mean they don't have it either. Warfare is going to change. And the kind of CAG, the Combat Action Group, which Delta Force is part of that, these guys were very well trained with this. And they knew how to use that training to deploy it perfectly. So to get to that level of precision of fighting man, that takes practice. That takes a lot of practice. One can only suspect that Delta Force operators might have used this high technology to accomplish their job. There's no way to independently verify this report that Ms. Levitt or Mrs. Levitt had put out. The removal of Maduro fits squarely with President Trump's hemispheric defense strategy. It's now termed the Donroe Doctrine. I've talked to you many times about the Monroe Doctrine, how the faster we can fly, the further we can sail, the more we can deploy troops and equipment in foreign locations, the more important hemispheric safety becomes. We cannot allow China to set up a base in Chile. We can't allow the Russians to set up a base in Venezuela or Cuba because the Western Hemisphere is ours and it will be controlled by the United States. Now, the Eastern Hemisphere or the northern and southern parts of the Eastern Hemisphere are going to be controlled by Russia and China. There's just no way around it. Europe doesn't have a dog in the fight anymore. I hate to say it, but it's sad to see, 3,000 years of dominance and warfare come to an end, but it's done. Europe has been wiped out. They couldn't fight their way out of a wet paper bag. If Russia wanted to take Europe, they could do it in a weekend. They just don't have the capacity to fight. You get a bunch of orange-haired, lip-pierced, half-breed, uh, illiterate, gay soldiers, and they just fold like a daisy smack with an iron. I'm just telling you, it doesn't stand a chance of saving the world. China, on the other hand, North Korea, on the other hand, very well trained, very well armed, very well supported by their government. What they don't have, though, is a motivated fighting force. In order to be victorious, you have to have technology, you have to have supply chain, and you have to have a motivated fighting force. America has a motivated fighting force. We're going to win. We're going to win because it's truth, justice, and the American way. Chinese soldiers, when they are sent abroad, they're going to defect. About 50% of them are going to leave. Why? Because they don't have a wife. China has created a breeding blockade on Chinese men. There aren't enough Chinese women to go around because the birth of women was discouraged by the government for so long that now they have an overstock of men, and the men have no women. And so what happens when you send those men to a foreign country, like let's say they're going to go invade Oklahoma, those Chinese soldiers, they don't want to fight. They want a ranch and a wife. And that's what's going to happen. They're not going to win for the motherland because the motherland gives two shits about them. They've openly said we would happily, wonderfully smile every day if we could sacrifice 300 million Chinese to wipe out 300 million Americans. We would do it in a second because we can always make more Chinese. I swear that's what they said. They've said it openly, publicly. They don't care about their people. They have more than enough people. Mona Hawk asked me about Andrew Bashiago. He is legally blind. His eye problems got to the point where he tried everything, stem cells, every kind of treatment you could think of, and he's effectively blind. He still smart, still talks well on the phone, very articulate man, absolutely, and an impeccable memory of everything that happened during the secret space program and the super soldier program. He was in on it. He was one of the first voices out there about it. He was a smart kid, and he was an even more brilliant lawyer, a very smart man. I have a lot of respect for Andrew Bashiago, but the age that the super soldier program put on him, it has weighed on him. And it's the same with all of them. And James Gilliland, no, he was never a super soldier. James Gilliland was just James Gilliland. As far as I know, James and Jay are both doing well. They travel a lot more than they used to. They used to just hang around Trout Lake, but now they travel a lot more. James goes back to Hawaii, and where he almost died in Hawaii when he was young in a surfing accident. So, in fact, that's how he got inspired to go to Trout Lake and build the East Ranch. And if you've never been to East make the trip. It's just once in your lifetime you need to go. You'll see more spacecraft and man, unbelievable, unbelievable. So the Donroe Doctrine is to regain control of the Western Hemisphere. And that means Greenland and that means Venezuela. And Venezuela is going to go through a series of changes very rapidly, very rapidly. My prediction is this week, the Dulce government is going to be set aside. It's not going to collapse. It's going to be set aside. Diplomats are going to go down there and they're going to figure out Dulce doesn't have what it takes to lead that country in the right direction. She's still carrying too much of the trappings, too much of the Maduro game plan, and she doesn't know where to go from here. There is so much wealth in Venezuela, and the trouble is the people don't have any way to access it. So the smart people, the doctors, the lawyers, the engineers, they left. They came here to the United States to further their educations. I have lots of friends from Venezuela, smart people. There's they told me stories where they lived in Venezuela. They had two gates for their house. They had an outer gate that they would open up and drive their vehicle into like a parking cage. And then they would close the outer gate. Okay. And then they would check the surveillance cameras to make sure nobody snuck in that gate while they were driving into it. Now, this gate, it's walls on all sides and a top. It has a cage on the top, so you can't even crawl over it. Once the vehicle's in there and secure, you can open the door, get your groceries out, your kids out, your dog out, and you go through the second gate into the house. That's how they had to live in Venezuela. The crime was so bad. It was so bad that they just had to go. Maduro had absolutely ruined that country. And so they finally got the opportunity to leave and come to the United States and seek asylum, and they did it. Now they're here. But everything they had is still back there, and they want to go back. If they could go back without the worry of the crime, without the gangs, Tren de Aragua is the worst gang in the world. I mean, they carve people up for enjoyment. Once the gangs are taken apart, and that's where I think Dulce doesn't have what it takes to do it, because I think she's too wrapped up in everything that's going on with the gangs. Too much money, too much power, and too mean of guys. And there's too many of them and too many levels of government. Something big is going to have to take place there. They're going to have to clean house. Now, as I said, we have government in a box. You just ship it down there, take the bow off, pour the water on it, it opens up, and you start putting people in those positions. I think that President Trump has a group of expats, Venezuelans that live here in this country, that are willing to go back and set up that government. And once that is set up, you have the oil companies, Marathon, Exxon, many of the big oil companies in this country, they're willing to go back and pour money into Venezuela. But you know what they need? You know exactly what they need. They need security, because we played that game once before. They went down there. Come on, Venezuela's got the gold. Venezuela's got the oil. We developed the refining capacity to take care of that oil. But what happened? When we got it all going and Citgo was up and running and everything was hunky dory, Venezuela nationalized everything, stole it all. They just stole everything from the oil companies that went down there and built it. They paid them nothing for it. They lost billions, and that's in 1980s money. Yeah, they lost billions in 1980s money, 1990s money. That's a lot of money. So, and now they want to make it back. They want to get back the money that they already put in down there. And that's the deal that's been made. The Venezuelans are going to get a cut, and we're going to get a cut. And that's the way it works. So the rest of the world may not like that. I know China's not going to like that at all, because China doesn't have oil. And if China doesn't get oil, it dies. If China doesn't get oil, it dies. Because the one thing China has that no other country in the world has. You want to know what it is? Chat room, do you have any idea what China has that no other place on the planet has? No, don't even think about the woman that won the Nobel Peace Prize. That's a card game there. That's a card game there. She doesn't have the capacity to run that country. Exactly right, old dog. Chinese. And they have a lot of them, right? Almost 1.3 billion Chinese. And guess what? They all need energy. They all got to drive. They all got to cook. They all got to do stuff. They don't just sit around in their apartments. Yeah, they're all workforce. They got a lot of workforce. Believe me, I've toured a lot of factories in China, a lot. And positions in the factory, I would have maybe 2 people and more automation. They have 12 people and no automation. Everything runs by hand, all the welding, all the painting. It's really quite unbelievable to see. Why? Because they got the people. And if they have somebody die or get sick, no problem. I got four more to take their place. Yeah, yeah. But they all, yeah, that's right, Grandma. They need women. The Chinese men, there's no Chinese women to marry. And besides, I'm not sure you would want to marry a Chinese woman who is uneducated, doesn't have any money. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to make more Chinese? So what? I mean, you can't get anywhere. The real estate companies are broke. You can't save money because the government will just take it. You can't export your money out of the country because they'll watch it. Even Mr. Ma, one of the richest guys in the whole world, he got a little uppity there. He started talking about the government because he had a lot of money, a lot of money. He's worth what? A couple $100 billion. He's one of the richest men in the world. He disappeared for about 10 days. He came back. Mr. Ma was very compliant after that. Never said anything about the state after that. I met Mr. On. That was the billionaire that I met with when I went to China. Flew there to the meeting in his helicopter. And you know what he wanted from me for fixing his plant and getting everything up and going there? He wanted me to take his daughter to Disney World in Florida. Now, that doesn't sound like much, does it? Sounds like something you could probably get done, right? Well, what he really wanted was to get his daughter out of the country. Because once she got out of the country, she could establish herself in Florida and get some kind of asylum going. He could transfer his billions of dollars to her in Florida and escape. Effectively escape. That's what China doesn't allow to happen. They'll allow you to be a billionaire, but you can't move your money. You can't move your money. Why do you think they took back Hong Kong? Because there were a lot of billionaires there. There was a lot of money. And China just took it. Like that, just took it. They didn't care what the students said. If the students got too loud or protested, they just zip tied them and hauled them back to the mainland. You never heard from them again or their kidneys. Yeah. So China needs the oil. It doesn't mean China's not going to get the oil, but there's going to be a deal made because that's what Trump does. Trump realizes, okay, now the Venezuelan oil is under our protection. We're going to make sure the Venezuelan people are taken care of, Venezuela first, and America is going to be taken care of. And then we'll make sure that China gets what it needs. Not enough to take over the world, not enough to cause an army or cause trouble around the world, but enough to keep its people from starving. There's a lot going on. So, speaking of that, money, 2 days ago, Scott Bessent took the microphone and said something. I think a lot of you may have missed it. I want to bring it back up so that you understand what's going on. You know about the fraud, right? In Minneapolis and Ohio and in Illinois and Chicago and New York and Washington State, California. You know about this, right? We're talking maybe 108, $109 billion in fraud. It's a lot amount of money. It's a serious amount of money. And as I told you, the Somalis are a bunch of inbred ingrates with the average IQ of 60. They are not smart people. They just don't have it. They've been inbred for too many centuries. They were used by the Democrats to set up these fraud agencies. So you think to yourself, well, why would the Democrats want these illiterate Somalis that can't even speak English? Why would they care about these guys becoming multimillionaires? Well, they're not. They're not. No, they're still pissing in the streets. They might buy a new home, but they don't know what to do with it. They might buy a new car, but they don't know what to do with it. They might buy jewelry, but So what? They're sending the money back to Somalia. Billions of dollars. In fact, they doubled the GDP of Somalia. Doubled it from remittances going from the US back to Somalia. I told you they have a 60 IQ. They don't think things through. They're not capable of doing this. It was done using them. So how does this happen? What did they do? Just put it all in a FedEx envelope and FedEx? No, 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 no. It goes through layers and layers and layers and layers of bank accounts. So Scott Bessent, 3 days ago, is going to close the loopholes that allow these remittances to be made, but he's also going to audit the banks. He's going to audit the banks that the money was deposited into, that the money was withdrawn from, what account it went to. They're going to do a forensic audit on it. President Trump has instructed the administration to bring accountability for the hardworking people of Minnesota, Bessent said. Under Democratic Governor Tim Walz, welfare fraud has spiraled out of control. Billions of dollars intended for feeding hungry children, housing disabled seniors, and providing services for children in need were diverted to benefit Somali fraud rings. Now, while meeting with financial leaders, victims, and local law enforcement, Bessent revealed how Treasury, the U.S. Treasury, is going to combat the issue that nobody seems to care about until now, using the state's Bank Secrecy Act, Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, as they're called FinCEN. I hope you never receive a letter from FinCEN. They have issued a geographic targeting order which will require banks and money transmitters like Western Union, like Walmart, the money transmitters located in Hennepin and Ramsey counties, and including the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, to report additional information about funds transferred outside the United States. These businesses are going to be required to file reports with FinCEN. That's not a good career move, I'm telling you, Earth Explorers. Above certain transactions of $3,000 or more. I should catch about everything. Where the beneficiary is located outside of the United States. Currently, law enforcement has limited insight into the persons located abroad who receive the proceeds of the frauds. This order will better equip federal, state, and local law enforcement by providing them with additional information to assist in their investigations of government benefits fraud. It is expected to advance prosecutions and assist in the recovery of funds laundered internationally. They're going to claw all that money back. You think the Democrats aren't pissed? Because guess where some of that money goes? A big hunk of it goes right through those foreign sources and right back into the Democrat Party. Swear to God. Additionally, the IRS is increasing audits and launching a new task force focused on pandemic-era tax scams. Agents are digging into nonprofits and charities that exploited the 501c3 label, and there are a lot of them. FinCEN even issued an alert to banks outlining red flags to help them spot and prevent child nutrition program fraud before it escalates. Laura Ingram also said Bessent also revealed that the Treasury Department plans to pay cash to anyone who comes forward with inside information about Minnesota's massive fraud operation. I don't have inside operation, but got outside operation knowledge. The goal is very simple. It's very simple. Identify the fraudsters, trace how the money moved, and determine when the key decisions were made and who made them. Was it Chuck Schumer? Was it AOC? Was it Ariana Presley? Yeah, they want to know. They want to know. You're going to see some careers end over this. And it begins tomorrow. Yep. Bassett made clear that the administration understands how these criminal networks actually work. We know that these rats are going to turn on each other. We heard today that one of the people who has been convicted of fraud, she was given $200,000 to bribe a juror, and she was so corrupt. This woman was so corrupt that she skimmed $80,000 off the bribe money for herself. She was given $200,000 to bribe a juror, and she was so corrupt, she stole 80 grand of the bribe money. That's how these rats turn on each other. That level of corruption creates opportunity for law enforcement. Treasury plans to exploit it, just like they did with the mafia. So we're going to offer whistleblower payments to anyone who wants to tell us who, what, when, where, and how this fraud has been done. And I think that will give us a real great report on how to get it done. It was a clear signal that the Trump administration intends to break these fraud rings by following the money and turning insiders into witnesses. And it likely won't be hard to find the whistleblowers. Last year, nearly 500 Department of Human Services employees blamed Governor Walz for the surge in fraud during his administration. Tim Walz is 100% responsible for massive fraud in Minnesota. Why do you think they picked him for vice president? Because he had access to the dark money to the tune of billions of dollars, and that's what Kamala needed to run her scams. And that's going to start happening tomorrow. Uh, it's a good point, Flippy T. They made a strain of pneumonia that keeps coming back. But the idea is when you get to be a certain age, everybody's got pneumonia in their lungs, right? But pneumonia comes from the bacteria pneumococci, right? It is an anaerobic bacteria. That means it doesn't thrive well in air. It has to be buried away from the air. Well, that occurs in the human lungs when you get a lot of congestion. When your lungs begin to fill up with mucus, it's a prime environment for growing pneumonia. And pneumonia, of course, the pneumococci release a toxic waste product that's deadly to humans. And not to mention these grape clusters, that's what the name actually means in Latin. These grape clusters that form in your lungs, they eat away at the alveoli, which is the thin, delicate tissue cells, but they exchange oxygen and CO2 through those very thin layers of skin or layers of tissue. The grape clusters destroy those. So even after you get over the pneumonia, you can't breathe the way you used to breathe. And we all have it. It's all in our lungs right now. But so you have to keep your lungs clear. You have to keep them well oxygenated and clear of phlegm in order to keep the pneumococci from blooming, causing pneumonia. That's what kills you. So I don't think you can get rid of the pneumonia. The pneumococci are just there, and the more years you live, the more odds are that you're going to have it in your lungs. So that's why ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and fenbendazole are so important. If you begin to get cold-like symptoms, a sniffle, a sore throat, you notice you're developing a cough or a lot of phlegm in your lungs, start taking your ivermectin. You take that ivermectin with one tablet, your viral load drops 90%. Serious. 5 days of ivermectin, you're back on your good as gold. The hydroxychloroquine affects your lungs or helps your lungs get heavy congestion, especially these are very devastating in the sense that when they get marches down into your lungs with a pair of deep boots. And the best way to get out of there is the HCQ. Now, it will jack your heart a little bit, but not to worry, it will work out. So here's the deal. Search all you want. Go compare prices all you want. You won't find it cheaper or more available than you will on my website. Go to brooksagnew.com, brooksagnew.com. I don't have enough time to show you on the website. Just do it. Go to brooksagnew.com, click on the blue button that says Ivan and fenbendazole without a prescription. It's right there on the cover. You can't miss it. Thousands of people do it all the time. Click on that button and make sure that you get the ivermectin and fenbendazole in your medicine cabinet. Now, I do plan on bringing hydroxychloroquine back. As you know, the Japanese pharmacy collapsed on me. That's okay. I always have a backup plan. Everybody's going to get their stuff. Don't you worry. But I'm not going to be able to carry hydroxychloroquine for a while. I should be able to get it back in a month or so, but the supply chain is sketchy. It's very difficult to get, even for me. But once I get my supply chain set back up again, I have that product in my warehouse, then I will offer it again on the website. Just keep checking back if you want to have that product. But ivermectin, fenbendazole, no problem. And right now we're using US based product. So if you order on a Monday, you can get it on a Friday. That's how fast we can get it out. Once we get the supply chain caught up, we're almost there, almost there. A couple more weeks at the most, and we'll be there. Yes, and that's another thing, 86 Troll. You bring a very good point up. When do you use the ivermectin? Well, he says he went to a casino and came home with the sniffles. Well, lots of people go on cruises and they get what's called cruise crud. You're on a boat with 4,000 other people from all over the world, from Australia, from who knows where, and you're on a boat with them. You're sharing facilities with them, the pool, the hallways, the cafeterias, all that stuff. Take your ivermectin while you're on the boat as a prophylactic. If you're going to go to the casino, you're going to go to a ball game, you're going to go to the movie theaters, take your ivermectin. Just take the ivermectin, and it will prevent you from getting those colds. Since I've been dealing ivermectin, I have not had a cold. It's been a lot of years, hasn't it? It's been a lot of years. And at my age, in my shape, because I've had heart failure, I got over it. But the point is, you get in a poor state, you need to have that ivermectin to protect yourself. Go to the website, it's brooksagnew.com, click on the blue button that says Ivan and fenbendazole without a prescription, and you can get it. You can't find it on eBay, forget it. You can't find it on Amazon. If you do, it's going to be very expensive and you'll be waiting and waiting and waiting. You want to get it at wholesale prices, you want to get it without a prescription, go to the website and check it out. Let's see. I don't want to cover that. Yeah, yeah. The street tactics that the left is using on this protest, I don't want to talk about too much. It's because I think it's going to fall apart. I really do. Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this. What's going on with the America 250? And what are we really trying to accomplish here? Um, some people are really worried about, patriotism and becoming too aligned with a national um, message that maybe you can get sucked in by, if not Trump, someone else, some nationalistic message. But let's consider the message of sovereignty. Okay. I talk to people all the time about being in business, and they all talk about, being able to borrow money. And I tell them, I discourage that. I think what you should do is earn the money Save your money and become your own investor. That's how you are sovereign. You don't owe anybody when you start up your business. It doesn't mean you can't borrow money later, but to start the business, you need to build your own prototype. You need to do your own business plan. You need to put that stuff together instead of borrowing money to make that happen. So President Trump's first year in office has been nothing short of phenomenal in this third term. Absolutely phenomenal. But it's because he planned for 4 years while he was in exile for what he was going to do this time. So it's like 4 years of planning and 1 year of implementation. That's why you're seeing things go so quickly. And it really hasn't been that way since Franklin Roosevelt because Franklin Roosevelt served 4 terms. And he really didn't get things going until his third term. Remember, we were fighting a war. So there was a lot of things keeping his mind busy besides rebuilding the nation. That's why people were in poverty for so long. So the US government was a participant in, prior to Trump's third term, in 160 international and multilateral organizations at a cost of about $17 billion a year, every year. We just paid the money out. It went to climate accords. Most of it was green scam stuff. But there were a lot of organizations, a lot of people making a lot of money, a lot of people driving a lot of Mercedes and having a lot of mountain chalets on our nickel. So many of Trump's executive actions have been extraordinary, and they've been long overdue in addressing destructive government policies and attempting to reform how the federal government operates. But Trump's latest executive action, it actually took place 4 days ago. 4 days ago, and you're going to start seeing the effects tomorrow. And at the end of next week, the beginning of the following week, there's going to be even more effects. And I'm going to try to get this in the last 15 minutes. Uh, and these are going to have very, very far reaching effects, and they're going to be profound and global. Trump issued a memorandum. It's not like an executive order, but an executive memorandum has the same force of an executive order, and it has the same force of law. It has enforcement actions and everything with it. It directs all executive departments and agencies to take immediate steps to withdraw the United States participation in 66 international and multilateral organizations. 31 of these are within the organizational umbrella of, the United Nations. You've been waiting for it. You've heard me talk about it before, but this is it. And every single one of these are deemed contrary to the national interest of the United States after a thorough review conducted in 2025 by the State Department. Actually, the study began while Biden was still president, and it's just not finished. Many of these organizations are costly to the American taxpayer. They are not productive. They're mostly even counterproductive. And not only to the United States, but to the other nations as well. A prime example is the commitment by a wide range of international organizations for enacting exorbitantly expensive and oppressive climate change policies around the world. They don't do anything except make bureaucrats rich. According to the report issued by the U.S. State Department on December 3rd, 2024, the U.S. government was a participant in at least 160 international multilateral organizations I told you what it cost was. So here are, I can't go through the entire list because it'll take the whole rest of the program, but I'll just spot through them here. 24/7 Carbon-Free Energy Compact. People, we live on a fucking carbon-based planet, okay? You can't have a carbon-free life. Okay? It just can't happen. It's ridiculous. The Commission for Environmental Cooperation. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? Education cannot wait. For what? These are organizations that get millions and millions of dollars. The European Center for Excellence for Countering Hybrid Threats. Wow. Forum of European National Highway Research Laboratories. Freedom Online Coalition. To what? Traffic children? To show porn? To groom kids for pedophilia? Wow. Global Counterterrorism Forum? Whatever that means. Global Forum on Migration and Development. Inter-American Institute for Global Change Research. Why do we research change? I could go on and on. I probably would go on and on. International Cotton Advisory Committee, International Development Law Organization. By the way, you heard that President Trump, or no, I'm sorry, that Texas has decided to withdraw from the Bar Association. Yep. No longer governed by European law. How about that? How about that? International Tropical Timber Organization, International Union for Conservation of Nature, Pan American Institute of Geography and History. All these people making millions and millions of dollars, and they don't do anything. The United Nations organizations, the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, that is right next door to the Department of Paper Towels. I know this, I've seen it. The UN Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, which is the Economic Commission for Latin America. Oh my gosh. International Trade Center, Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General on Sexual Violence in Conflict, Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General on Violence Against Children, Peace Building Commission, Peace Building Fund, Permanent Forum on People of African Descent. It goes on and on and on. So Trump directs the Secretaries of State, Marco Rubio, to provide additional guidance as needed to implement the memorandum. It's going to save a lot of money. It's going to get all these organizations out of our business. And it is what I call a sovereignty first agenda. In other words, the United States of America, 250th anniversary of it, we are not going to be beholden to the UN or any international or trilateral or multilateral organization. Nobody but the President of the United States is going to decide when we go to war, what we're going to spend our money on, what we're going to send people to die for. Only the President makes that decision. We elected him to make that decision. We don't want any international influence to make that decision for us, to take any money from us, to ask us to move anywhere, buy anything. And that comes to an end tomorrow. So you want to know what the future is? Listen to America Free Radio, because I just told you. So you think 2026 is going to be an ordinary year? Not by a long shot. You think the 2026 midterm elections are not going to have President Trump on the ballot? Wrong. President Trump is going to be all over this ballot. And he is starting tomorrow, going from state to state to state to state to campaign for down ballot people in Congress, people in governor's office, people in the Secretary of State, people in mayors, and people that are running for Congress and the Senate. It's a super important year. The America 250 momentum, the fireworks, the operations, the parades, everything that's going to be going on in every single state. Look up your state. Just put in your state into any search engine you want and see what America 250 activity is going on that you could take your kids to for a daycation. You don't have to travel a long way. You don't have to get on a plane or a bus or a train. You could probably drive less than an hour several times this year and participate in these important America 250 activities with your kids. They will love it. They will love it and they will never forget it. And every time the national anthem is played, every time the planes go over, every time the marching band comes by, there'll be a soft place in their heart for it. I promise you that. Let me make sure I am still connected to everything. Yes, I am. So everything's still going good. We're very happy with everything. Took me a while to figure out how Rumble was going to work tonight because I only put in a 4-letter title to tonight's program. Well, Rumble didn't like that. They wanted at least 6 letters. I didn't know that. So I was panicking. So I learned something tonight. Thank you, chat room, for having everything going. It's hard. Yes, Alberta. I forgot to mention that Alberta is moving to secede from Canada. We'll see how far they go, but if anybody's gonna secede from Canada and maybe look at annexing to the United States, Alberta is the one you want. They have the oil, they have the wheat, and unless we have some global cooling, which we have also done math models on here, the wheat line could move as much as 300 miles to the south. If that happens, the wheat line begins at Billings, Montana, instead of Alberta, Canada, and Ontario. The issue is that we lose all that capacity. Uh, sure, global cooling sounds like a good solution to global warming, right? But if it pushes the wheat belt south to Billings, that makes the equator property, which is actually a very small amount of our planet, premium property a la Venezuela for growing wheat and growing crops for our planet. Just things to think about. Just things to think about. Uh, thank you very much. Was it S Barnett over on Twitch? Thank you very much. Good compliment. I appreciate that. Good programming tonight. I really appreciate that. I appreciate all you guys listening too, because you know it means ad revenue for us. I sell my products on here, but Rumble's happy that you're here because I get paid based on the amount of traffic that comes into Rumble, and I appreciate that very much. It helps me keep the program live, and I don't do it for the money. No, I don't do it for the money. It just makes it that much more fun. We've been at it for 20 years. 20 years. What? My ivermectin information got bleeped out just when we were getting to the dosage info. Well, that's because you're on YouTube, William. But the thing is, when you start getting the sniffles, start getting a sore throat, start taking your ivermectin. Take it for 5 days, 1 pill a day. If you weigh 150 pounds, if you weigh 200 and something pounds, take 2 a day. And within 2 or 3 days, at the most, you'll be over it. And it's knocks your viral load down by 90%, one tablet. One tablet. And if you stay with it, it'll wipe it out. Fenbendazole is great through a process called apoptosis for reducing cancerous tumors. Many people who got the jab are having turbo cancers. That's cancers of various types like melanoma, breast cancer, cervical cancer, all at the same time, which makes no damn sense, but it's because of the jab. I can't put it any other way. But you can detox this stuff out of your system. Take the ivermectin, make sure you take zinc and vitamin D. And we will see you on Wednesday night right here on America Free Radio.
Thank you for listening to Revolution